Hey guys, welcome to today's live stream. This is the third video in the series on how to play piano. Today we're going to be talking about how to read music notes. This is going to be especially important if you're a beginner at piano. The last video we talked about the piano music that I recommend you study, so if you want to go ahead and check that one out. I'll include some links at the end of this video and in the video description below. Now, if this live stream is over and you want to go ahead and skip this video and you want the links to the materials, they're in the description below, but you're going to want to watch this video regardless, because it's not going to matter much if you have the materials if you don't know how to use them the right way. Okay? Alright. So, before we get into how to read music notes, I need to give you a basic primer on what you need to know. I'm trying to give you just the very basic gist of it. With my students, I don't want to overload them with too much information, so it's kind of like I'll let you know as we go along, but I'll try to keep it as clear, as clean, as little information as possible. So we have what we call, when you're looking at sheet music, we're not going to go to sheet music actually. That's one other thing I need to explain, is that when you actually play it on the piano, the reading I'm going to show you, it's a little bit of a different format. So next video, I'm going to show you how to play and read music at the same time on sheet music. This process is going to be a little bit different. So, getting into the information, we have what is called a bass clef and what is called a treble clef. These indicate the location of the notes that we're going to be reading and the notes that you're going to be playing on the piano. And an easy way to remember it is when you look at a bass clef to me and to the students that I tell them it looks like an ear. And if you look at the treble clef, it looks like a seashell, or you can come up with your own symbols, doesn't really matter. As long as you remember to really keep these in mind. Now, bass clef. Let's talk about bass clef. Bass clef, right? And I'll show you a little bit more in detail if it's not really, if the stuff I'm talking about right now is not clear, I'll be sure to clear it up when I show you actually how we get it set up on the piano. Now, bass clef, whenever you see this sign, I want you to think of it as all the notes in the center of the piano and all the lower notes and keys. And also another important thing to remember is that when you're going lower on the piano, you're going to the left, okay? Going higher, you're going to the right on the piano. So for now, all the middle notes in the center, all the way down, okay? Now, if we're talking about treble clef, same thing, it's the opposite. All the notes in the center, going higher, going to the right. Now, the other thing, and I have another handy flashcard here, the notes, and I'm just picking treble clef just because it's here. The notes are indicated on what are called ledger lines. You're going to use these to locate the notes and to begin your note reading. We have 5 of these lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I would say you don't want to count from the top or count from the bottom, doesn't really matter. And then we have 4 spaces in between. So the notes, when you're looking at them, they're either going to be on a line or a space. And then later on I'll show you well, I won't show you, but you just figure out which line or which space it's on. Okay. Right now, another thing to keep in mind. I think it's kind of obvious by now, but if you look at each one of these lines or spaces, they have a letter indicating either one. Okay. So if we're counting from the bottom to the top, the bottom line is E, G, B, D, and F. The spaces in between are F, A, C, and E. Now, this is for treble clef. If I explain bass clef, it's a little bit different. Now, the bass clef notes, the letters are going to be 2 letters ahead. So let me explain in a minute. On the bottom, if we were talking about treble clef, remember that bottom one was E. Well, on bass clef, that bottom line is going to be G. Next one is B, D, F, and A. And in between, we have A, C, E, and G. Now, another way to think about it is when you're going from line to line or space to space, we're skipping 1 letter in between. Okay, so we're going from E, skip F to G. No, I'm sorry. G, skip A to B, and so on. Okay, it's another way to think about it if it helps you. Now, just one important note. If you study or if you have studied traditional piano lessons, or if you do study with a traditional piano teacher or music teacher in general, they're going to have you learn by an acronym. And if you don't know what an acronym is, it's basically when you have initials that represent a phrase. Now, in my opinion, and I think if a lot of teachers were watching this, music teachers or theory teachers, they'd probably have a fit, because I'm telling you, acronyms, when you're learning to read music, it's going to be the worst way to learn ever. Let me teach you that. Let me show you what that acronym is with piano music, right? Or with reading the music. One acronym they have, we said the bottom one was what? E. Sorry. So we have E, G, B, D, and F, right? So one acronym they will teach you is every good boy does fine. And I'll tell you why these acronyms are terrible to learn. It's because once you learn them, you're going to have to unlearn it later. And even when I read music, I'll tell you one thing, it's like I don't even think of the letters. I just see the note and I play it, and I definitely don't use acronyms. And it's really a headache when I get transfer students, because the transfer students usually learn acronyms, and when we're trying to identify the notes that they're playing on the piano, they're counting from the bottom like every good boy. That's a D. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this. It's almost like if you're trying to spell, like if you were learning how to read or write, if you try to find like the letter H, you have to count all the way from A, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, right? So we don't do it that way, and I don't teach them that way, and you're not going to learn that way either. So trust me on that. Do not learn acronyms. If you get anything out of this, don't learn acronyms, especially with music, okay? All right, now we'll get into the actual materials. So I have one thing here, which is called a keyboard guide. Let me spread this out. This one right here, this is what I use. You're only going to need two things to practice note reading, by the way. A keyboard guide. This is the Hal Leonard keyboard guide. I've tried other models or other brands as well. You don't want to try them. This is, in my opinion, the best one that I've ever that I use. I don't use any other ones. I have other ones. They're a lot more confusing. Another thing to note is at this time of recording is that if you have Amazon Prime, it frequently tends to be out of stock. So I usually have a few extra, and usually they'll ship anywhere from 3 to 6 months. If you don't want to wait, just buy something that's secondhand used, or another supplier that has the Hal Leonard keyboard guide. You're gonna have to shell out a few extra bucks, but I think it's better than waiting for it. If you want to get started, don't wait for it. Just bite the bullet, just a few extra dollars anyway, and then get the Hal Leonard keyboard guide. Now, excuse me. The other thing you're gonna need are flashcards. Okay, and again, I'll put some links in the description to the specific brands, specific products that I use. So, flashcards, okay? One last thing about the flashcards is that I think, in my opinion, it's better to use flashcards than, you could technically download an app, like a note reading app on the piano, and if worse comes to worse, if you don't want to use flashcards, it's better than nothing. But the reason why I like flashcards a lot is because you can play the key in addition, you find the actual location of the key, which you can't do like on an app on a phone. It's very limited. So you'll get the exact key and the exact same spot that you're supposed to play that letter, okay? All right. Now, just a few couple notes on starting this. Just think of it as a daily skill that you're practicing. You're gonna want to start small, a little bit at a time, and however much time you put into it, consistency and the time of effort over time, that's how you're going to get better at this. So it's just like learning a language. So don't get frustrated if it's not good right away in the beginning. And I'll share with you a really cool story. I used to have a student where we would just practice this once a week at the lesson. I think about 3 minutes max. And what's amazing is even like he wasn't practicing, note reading or flashcards outside of the lesson time. I know he wasn't practicing for a fact. He would even tell me. And we just did this once a week, every week. And it's pretty amazing that in 3 minutes of practice every day, I mean not every day, once a week, at the beginning of each lesson, like he would slowly start to become more accurate to the point where, let's say the first time he got like 2 out of 10 correct, 2 out of 10 notes. Next lesson would be like 3. Next lesson sometimes 5, when we kind of taper off here and there, be like 6, 5, 4, to the point where he was pretty much getting it like 90% accurate most of the time. So if you want to go that route and just do once a week, you can even make progress with that. Okay? All right. Now, I'm gonna set up the materials here in a second, and I'm gonna take this, take my phone and kind of set it up here so you can see what the layout is like. So let me set this up first. Also, I have my trusty little Pokemon could kind of help stop this guy from falling. Okay, with you can choose whatever Pokemon you want or whatever thing you want to help set up on the set the keyboard guide on the piano so it doesn't fall. All right. So coming on over. Now you can kind of see how it's set up here, right? And once you get this keyboard guide, just set it up the way I'm showing you right now. All right, so let me show you how we're going to practice. Now, if you look over here, actually, let me show you the range that I'm using. Sorry, with all the notes. So we start with the smaller range. So from here, this note right here is middle C. Okay. By the way, this is also middle C. You can play it with, you know, it's in bass or treble, and that's just like a basic rule for now. So the keys you're going to pick are going to be, and the letters are going to be very small range. So we're thinking from the bass. Here is middle C, going next 4 notes, right? So we have 5 notes in total, and let's just say it's for the left hand. A lot easier way to think about it. So we have C, B, A, G, and F. Now on the treble clef, and you can think of this as the right hand, we have C, D, coffee stain. We have E, F, and G. Okay. Now, the reason why you're going to want to pick this range is when we get into the music, it's what we call middle C position. So we just have, like, you know, 10 fingers. We're usually just using these 10 fingers in one fixed position over time. And middle C position, where the thumbs share middle C, is basically the beginning music you're working on. You're going to be in this range for a long time. Okay, so that's the reason why we pick middle C position. And when you start on the music, and I'll show you an example next week when we have beginning music, you'll see how it works out. You're going to be in middle C position for a while. All right, now I'll show you actually how to practice. All right, by the way, we say middle C position. Let me show you another thing. Can you check to see if they can see from here? Okay, so this is middle C, right? And I'll say, I don't know why they call it middle C. I think that's just how it worked out. You know, they were just thinking of something convenient. Middle C is actually not directly in the middle of the piano. They just pick middle C, right? So this is the C that's closest to the center of the piano. And the reason why this is important, because if you look at the flashcards, can you see that? All right. So if you look at the flashcards, they show you middle C. You are going to use this as a reference point when you are learning how to read. Okay, so middle C right here, if we line it up, it's right there. So whatever notes you're on, make sure you're in the right location. You're going to use that as a reference point. That's why middle C is very important. And the way to figure out which C is middle C, I don't know how to do it on an electric keyboard because I have a baby grand piano. But the way I think about it is if you just line up with the piano, you see the middle pedal or pedals. You just imagine where the center is. And you're standing right in front, and you just find the C that's closest in front of you. Okay. Sorry, I don't really have a simpler way of explaining that. Hope that works for you guys. Okay. All right, now, if you're having a really hard time with this, you know, in the beginning, you might just want to, you know, just try playing these, you know, if you find each key and play it that way. But if that's not working for you and you're kind of struggling with it, I say just practice with the answer side already there, and then just slowly try to locate, right? And you can kind of match it up this way, right? So you see middle C in the left hand right there. That's also C as well. So if worst comes to worst, you can just do this way. And again, this is why I like the flashcards, because you can literally play the key while you find it at the same time. Okay, so let's do another one. Let's say bass clef right here. So this is an F. By the way, how do we figure out if we're actually reading the right notes? Okay, I got 3 questions. 3 questions you're gonna want to ask yourself to really confirm if you're accurate with note reading, right? First question is, what line or space is it on? So if we look at bass clef, right? If we count from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is on the 4th line. Okay, flip it over. Okay, next question. Let's say if we're looking at the F, where is it located? And you're going to use the black keys in location with this. Another thing I want to explain is that on a piano or keyboard, the pattern of black key goes 2, 3, 2, 3, and these black keys are where they're going to help you find the white keys. Because if you covered up the black keys, you would literally not know which letter you were playing. Okay, so the other question to ask is, what side of the black keys is it on? In location to the black keys, where is it? So let me start with actually this one. This is D in the right hand. Okay,
By the way, this is on a space. It's hard to tell because it's not in between, but it does go more than this. And this is just very basic, but for now, this is a space note. It's not in any one of these spaces. It's kind of hanging on the outside right here. So this is D. So if we add those first two questions, is it on, let's say, is it on line or space? Which space is it on? It's not in any of these, so it's like under that line, okay? And then the other question is, which key, where is it located? So if you look at the two black keys, guess what? It's in the middle, okay? Now, if you're playing it, you know, if you're obviously playing a C, if you look at that, obviously that's not in the middle. So you fix that, oh, okay, I thought I was playing a D, but I was really playing a C. So that's another way to think about it. And of course, the last question is, what letter is it? And you want to confirm with both ways, okay? So we look here, D, we look up here, D as well. And I bring this up because, you know, you might think like, oh, you know, it's just really simple. Who would get confused with doing that? But you'd be surprised, you know, like I do get my students trained on these, and it's very easy to get confused. So you want to get all three questions answered just to make sure you're doing it the right way. Confirm all three questions, okay? And again, I said, if you're having an even harder time with it, you can just start with the actual answers here. All right, now, once you get the hang of it and you're able to just kind of look at the keys or look at the flashcards on the other side and find it correctly, this is where you're gonna want to introduce a time constraint. And what I mean by that is start counting down each time you have the note, you count down the amount of time you need to play it. So let's say with my students, I give them like maybe 5 seconds on the first time, and then they get better at it. I count down from 3 seconds. Now, I want to say I do these with my students. This might be really hard for you to do yourself because you have to be extremely disciplined, okay? So you might want to find a buddy at least a couple times you try it. So what I do, let me demonstrate. If I had a student here, excuse me. So I'll say, play this key, and I'll start counting down immediately. Usually what happens is start panicking and they can't find the key, right? So I'll say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and no matter what, and I actually don't have them say the letter. I actually tell them to just play a key, right? I'll flip it over no matter what. So whether they play a key, whether they play the wrong key, whether they play the right key, I just flip it over no matter what. Because I'm trying to train them to learn by instinct, okay? Now, why do I actually do it this way? Why do we want to do a time constraint where 3, 2, 1, and then just play it immediately? Well, because I won't go into too much detail about this because it can get kind of complicated. I'm kind of a nerd about this type of stuff, but I read this in a book. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow, where the brain is made up within. All right, let's go back. Sorry, I'm gonna fix the view on this camera a little bit. So anyway, basically that's the gist of the whole way of practicing with the flashcards, but the reason why you're going to want to go with the time constraint, let me explain a little bit more detail, is because we are thinking in this book called Thinking Fast and Slow. They basically divide it into 2 different modes, 2 different systems of thought. So they'll say something like system 1 is very slow, very deliberative, very analytical, right? And that's what you're kind of going to do in the beginning when you're trying to find the notes, like what letter is it, which key is it on, what line or space is it on, right? So that's in the beginning. You're going to tap into what we call system 1. Now system 2 is where we do something like on like a flash judgment, right? We do something without even thinking about it. We make a split-second judgment, and that's the second mode you're going to want to tap into once you get the hang of it. Because this is how musicians, this is how I myself, how we read music. We just see it and we play it. Just instantly we know if it's correct or not, okay? So, and I'm trying to show you the most natural way of learning, where you don't have to learn complicated systems, where you don't have to learn these acronyms. Again, the dumbest thing you could ever do is learn acronyms with, you know, with learning piano music or learning music notes. So you want to tap into this system of thinking. Now, the problem is it feels really unnatural, okay? But because a couple of times in the students, you can see them just panic with every single one, but over time they develop it, and it's remarkable. Their accuracy really improves to the point where they're not even thinking which line, which space is it on. They're just doing it by instinct. You know, they're not even aware if it's a space or a line anymore. And to me, that's the best way to learn, especially with music reading. And you don't have to go through anything complicated. You'll be able to
It's almost, to me, it's like almost the most instant way to begin to learn music, reading music on the piano, reading music notes. Okay. All right. I think I basically covered everything today. Thanks guys for watching this video. If you made it to the end, really appreciate your time. If you learned at least even just one thing from this video, please like, comment, or share. Hope to see you guys in the next live stream at the same time, Saturdays, 4 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going to be showing you how to actually start to read actual music, actual sheet music. It's going to be a fun one, and I'm going to show you how to play it at the same time, okay? Anyways, hope to see you then. Sorry. Thanks a lot for watching, and happy practicing.